Alexandra Eala versus Julia Grabher is a first-round matchup over in Linz for 2026. Both players have had different starts to their season so far. Grabher.
Something happened in Linz, Austria that nobody who was inside that building is going to forget for a very long time. And if you weren't watching, if you were sleeping on this match, if you wrote it off as just another first-round result, then you completely missed one of the most electric, dominant, and flat-out jaw-dropping performances the WTA clay court season has produced in years.
Grabher entered the tournament as number 87 in the world, with a 3-win, 8-loss season so far this year. Her best result was actually at the Australian Open, making the second round, eventually losing to Kalinskaya in straight sets. And her best win actually came that week, beating...
Because Alexandra Eala did not just win today. She sent a message, a loud, unmistakable, earth-shaking message to every single player left in this draw. And that message was brutally simple. Get out of the way. Let's set the scene because the context here matters enormously. The Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open is celebrating its 35th anniversary this year.
Beating Grabherto in the first round at the Australian Open. Her worst result actually came last week in a challenger event where she lost to Zavatska, the number 317 in the world. Her form hasn't been great. She was actually on a 5.
And to mark that milestone, the tournament organizers did something that nobody expected, something genuinely unprecedented. They ripped out the traditional hard courts entirely, hauled in 100 tons of crushed red clay, and transformed the city's design center into a full-blown clay court arena right in the heart of Austria. We are not talking about a minor aesthetic change. We are talking about a complete environmental transformation, a sterile exhibition hall turned into a gladiatorial battleground, a statement that this anniversary edition was going to be different. And they had absolutely no idea just how right they would be, but not in the way they probably imagined.
And use her experience on this surface. She's been really playing well on this surface over her career, and also being at home, try and use the crowd if she can, because she is playing in Austria and, trying to use that crowd against Eala.
Because stepping onto that freshly laid clay, calm, composed, and carrying the weight of an entire nation's hope on her shoulders was the Philippines' own Alexandra Eala, the 6th seed in the tournament, 20 years old, and playing with the kind of cold, calculated confidence that most veterans don't develop until their late 20s. Standing across the net, waiting for her, was Julia Grabher, 29 years old, Austrian born and bred, a WTA veteran who has clawed her way to a career-high ranking of number 54 in the world. And today, she was playing at home, in front of her people, in her country, with every single fan in that building screaming her name and desperately willing her to pull off the upset. On paper, you could have made an argument for Grabher, and a lot of people did. The narrative practically wrote itself. Young Filipina star, still building her reputation, stepping into a hostile Austrian crowd, facing a gritty, experienced local hero who had specifically prepared for this moment by grinding through WTA 125 clay events in Turkey in the weeks leading up to today. Grabher wasn't just hoping to win. She had a plan. She wasn't going to out-hit Eala. She knew that would be a suicide mission. Instead, her entire strategy was built around patience, frustration, and crowd energy. Extend the rallies, throw in jump balls, absorb pace, make the match ugly, and let that roaring Austrian crowd do the rest of the heavy lifting, rattling Eala's focus and slowly picking apart her mental composure from the stands. Is a strategy that has worked against younger players before. And for about 5 minutes inside that arena, it looked like it might just have a chance. The crowd was electric from the very first point. Every Grabher shot was met with thunderous applause. Every Eala error, and there were a few early on as she found her footing, was greeted with the kind of mocking, euphoric noise that is specifically designed to get inside a young player's head. The atmosphere was hostile, claustrophobic, deliberately engineered to break someone. But here is the thing about Alexandra Eala that the Austrian crowd clearly had not yet understood. She was not built for comfort. She was built for exactly this. You have to understand where this young woman came from, because Eala did not develop her clay court game by accident. She spent years, not weeks, not months, but years at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. One of the most demanding, most elite training environments in the history of professional tennis. A place where the clay court is not just a surface, it is a philosophy. She was engineered there, shaped by the same minds that helped produce the greatest clay court player the sport has ever seen. And what came out the other side of that process was a player who understands the red dirt with an almost instinctive, primal clarity. She knows how to construct points on clay. She knows how to use heavy, viciously kicking topspin to push opponents so far behind the baseline that they are no longer playing tennis, they are just surviving. She knows how to slide into defensive positions and immediately flip them into offensive weapons. Clay is not a challenge for Alexandra Eala. Clay is her home. And today, she was playing in her living room. The turning point came fast. And when it came, it was emphatic. Eala's left-handed forehand, which generates a sickening, almost dizzying amount of topspin, a direct product of those years of Nadal Academy engineering, started finding its rhythm. And the moment it did, Grabher's entire game plan began to unravel in real time. Because on clay, you cannot simply block Eala's ground strokes back into the middle of the court and expect to stay alive. The ball explodes off the surface with a violent, kicking upward trajectory that forces the receiver to play from above their shoulders from positions of complete discomfort. Grabher found herself pinned 3-4 meters behind the baseline, gasping, scrambling from side to side just to keep the ball in play, just to stay in the rally. And the moment she dropped one ball, even slightly short, Eala pounced. She stepped inside the baseline with the decisive aggression of someone who had been waiting for exactly that opening, and she executed. Laser-accurate winners down the line. Clean, brutal final. There was no back and forth. There was no war of attrition. There was a predator and there was prey. And the roles were never once in any doubt. The Austrian crowd, which had been so ferociously loud just minutes earlier, began to go quiet. The cheers softened into murmurs. The murmurs faded into something heavier. A stunned, almost disbelieving silence settled over the arena as the reality of what they were witnessing began to sink in. Their hometown hero wasn't just losing. She was being systematically, methodically, and completely outclassed. Now here's what makes this performance even more remarkable, and why the tennis world needs to sit up and pay serious attention right now. This was not Eala playing at her ceiling. This was not some miracle one-match performance pulled out of nowhere. This result was built on a foundation of momentum that has been quietly, relentlessly stacking up over the past 2 months. Eala just came off the Sunshine Double, the most grueling, most competitive hard-court stretch outside of the Grand Slams. She didn't just show up at Indian Wells and Miami. She delivered back-to-back round of 16 finishes at both tournaments. She didn't just participate, she thrived. She bullied established veteran players off the baseline at events where the draw is stacked with the absolute best in the world. She proved beyond any reasonable doubt that she belongs in the elite tier of this sport. And here is the truly terrifying part for the rest of the WTA. Hard courts are not even her best surface. They were just the warm-up, the proving ground. By stepping onto clay here in Linz, Eala is transitioning from a surface where she is dangerous into a surface where she is genuinely devastating. She went from playing in someone else's house to walking back through her own front door. And the result today against Grabher was exactly what happens when you give a player like that kind of comfort and confidence. But this tournament is far from over, and the draw has not done Eala any favors. Because waiting in the shadows of the second round, lurking with the kind of terrifying unpredictability that keeps opponents awake at night, is none other than Jelena Ostapenko, the 4th seed, a former French Open champion, a player who can at any given moment detonate her game into an absolute firestorm of flat, heavy, aggressive ball striking that has no ceiling and no mercy. Ostapenko does not play tennis the way other players play tennis. She plays it like she has nothing to lose and everything to gain on every single point. Getting past Grabher today was not optional. It was the price of entry to get to that showdown. And Eala knows it. Every fiber of her game, every calculated shot choice she made today against Grabher was with the awareness of what comes next. She was not just winning a first-round match. She was building momentum, setting a tone, sending a signal. A deep run here in Linz on clay, following those back-to-back round of 16 results in the United States, would do something truly significant for her trajectory. It would irrevocably push her into the upper echelon of the global rankings. It would shift her from a player who is talked about as a rising star into a player who is feared as a present-tense threat. There is a massive difference between those two things. And Eala is right on the edge of crossing that line permanently. What happened today in Linz was historic on multiple levels. A young Filipina player, trained on the red clay of Mallorca, seeded 6th in an anniversary edition of a prestigious European tournament, walked into one of the most hostile environments a touring professional can face and didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Didn't give the crowd a single moment to believe their noise was getting to her. She neutralized the home advantage completely, turned the energy of 30,000 passionate Austrians into nothing more than background noise. and delivered the kind of clean, dominant, straight sets performance that signals to the entire tour that this is no longer a story about potential. The era of watching Alexandra Eala develop, of talking about what she might become, of projecting and predicting and speculating about her ceiling, is officially over. What you saw today is not a preview of what is coming, is the arrival. She is here. She is operating at a level that is genuinely threatening to the established order of the WTA. And Julia Grabher, for all her grit, all her experience, all her preparation, and all the crowd noise that surrounded her today, had the unfortunate distinction of being the first player to find that out on the European clay this season. The red dirt of Linz has spoken. Alexandra Eala answered. And somewhere in the locker room right now, the players left in this draw are watching that scoreline, and they are quietly, privately, asking themselves the same uncomfortable question. Who is going to stop her?